Alright, welcome back to my van build series. The next thing, since I don't have my insulation yet, there's a lot of things I'm waiting on for that. I'm going to start building some furniture. So the first thing is, right here in front of the bed, I'm going to build like a dinette. So there's going to be a bench here and a bench over here and then a table in the middle. The benches are going to be the same size, but they're going to be constructed totally different. This one over here is just going to be like a box, and then it's going to have a door on the top to access an area to store bedding or something, or whatever I decide to put in there. And then on this side, there's going to be a slide out bench similar to the beds that people make, but this one's just going to slide out this way and become a third place for somebody to sleep. So we're actually going to start by laying out our floor plan here. We already got one measurement laid out on the floor, so we're going to work off that, and that's basically telling us where the bed ends at the floor. So eventually there's going to be a wall there. So we're going to lay out the floor plan here, and we're going to actually screw pieces of pine down to the floor. We're going to go all the way to the front where my cabinet's going to end. And the reason that I want to do that is, one, it makes it easier to take it in and out for when I get the insulation, but then also it gives a nice edge for my dad to follow when he lays the floor in here in a couple days. So to get us started, my dad actually bought me a new saw, so we're going to put that to use and get started on these benches. So basically the whole bench is going to be 37 inches wide, and then I'm going to do 18.5 inches tall, which then is going to have 5 inches on top of it for the cushion. So it's going to be a pretty tall bench, but there's a couple reasons for that. One of them being the table height. It needs to be tall enough for the table, and then also the other side needs to be tall enough to fit my refrigerator, and I'll get into that when I get in on that side. So basically the bench is going to end here, and then from here over that I already have screwed down to the floor, that's going to basically be the layout for the cabinet that's going to go here. Right now we're focused on the bench, and I got it laid out right now, and we're going to just cut the pieces and get this thing finished up.
The first bench is being constructed using regular 3/4 inch plywood and 1x4 pine. The outer construction is plywood, and the 1x4s are used on the inside for structure and to create an inner lip for the lid of the bench to rest on when closed. Since you'll see the front side of the bench, I use sanded 3/4 inch plywood, which will look a lot nicer once stained. After doing a test fit, I had to sand an area of the back panel to form around a spot on the wall. I took off about 1/4 inch in a small area so it would fit flush with our floor layout. Then I laid out the slats for the top and attached it using gate hinges.
So the first bench is done for now. I'm going to end up having to put the trim on here, which is going to hold the cushion in. So that's something I'll have to do later, but I want to wait until I actually have the cushions anyways. So this will be a nice little storage container, and then the first bench. The next thing is the second bench, which is going to be a lot more complicated. It's not going to be constructed like this one at all. The first thing is this is going to be where I'm going to store my refrigerator. So that's part of why we made these benches as high as we did. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our edging for the floor. So it's just going to be the base that's going to be the footprint of this whole bench. And we're going to do it similar to the way that we did it over here. So on this side, we're going to do it out of plywood because this is going to actually just slide right in. We're going to put it on some drawer slides, but I want the plywood to be the same level as the floor. So the 3/4 inch pine is going to be a little bit too big. So we're going to use 1/2 inch plywood and put the footprint of this bench in there first. And then from there, we're going to work on the whole mechanism for sliding it out and everything like that. So we'll get into it now.
So we cut and painted the 1/2 inch plywood and screwed it down to the floor. Then we got to cutting and assembling the bench itself. I may have decided to build this in a more complicated way than necessary, but I think it'll turn out pretty good in the end. So you can kind of see what I got going on here. It's very similar to like a cedar park bench. I cut these little pieces here of Luan to fit in between each of these. And this is going to be the outer part of the slide out bench. And then when I do the inner part, I'm just going to put these pieces in here like this. Obviously full width, 37 inches. And that'll go in there, and then basically this will slide. And this piece will slide out. So now what I have to do is I have to take this apart, glue this all together, and then make sure it's all square and everything. And then when I get that done, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to build the inner part inside of the outer part, if that makes sense, just to make sure it's all going to work well together, make sure it's the right dimensions and everything like that. And I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. Don't worry if you're a little confused at this point. I promise it all comes together in the end. So basically, I assembled this whole section into 3 separate pieces. To tie all of them together, I am using a threaded rod, so I drilled holes through each of the sections and inserted the rod. This took a bit of fine tuning as the holes didn't line up perfectly at first, but we got it after a while. Then my dad trimmed the threaded rod to length, and this section is done for now. Next, we cut all the pieces needed for the second section and began laying it out. I haven't mentioned it yet, but this whole bench is being constructed using oak.
Alright, so we got all of the pieces laid in for our fixed part of our bench. So all these 3-foot pieces are laid in here, and then all these vertical legs are laid in here as well. So the next thing we have to do is attach it. So to make that easier, I cut a bunch of pieces of Luan, and then I put it in here, and it's going to basically match the spacing over here where we put the Luan in there. So to attach them, I'm going to basically make like an L bracket out of these 2 pieces, attach it to here, and then we'll put screws in each one of the slats for the fixed bench. And then over here, we're going to do something a little bit differently. So we're going to get to attaching all this together and then hopefully get it in there and see if it actually works.
It took us quite a while to do this step, but we got everything all attached together. It just took some time to make sure we were tying the right pieces together. To finish the main construction, we put together the legs for the fixed side of the bench using 4 pieces of 1x4 oak wood. Once assembled, we test fit everything in the van.
That's probably about where it's gonna be.
Yeah.
That's the fanciest thing I've ever built.
It's nice. And then once I think you get it anchored down and like that back piece anchored to the wall a little bit, it'll be pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, and I gotta put all the trim pieces on.
Yeah.
The basic build out of these benches are done now, but there's a few more things that I need to do. One of them is trimming them out, and this one's going to be easy because it's just going to be one piece across the front. But this one needs a piece on this side and a piece on that side. This one's going to be attached to the fixed bench. This one's going to be attached to the sliding bench. And then I want to put a piece of trim on the floor as well, also attached to the sliding bench. And then I got some pieces of metal that are going to go across the top of here. Again, one attached to the sliding bench and then one attached to the fixed bench. And then also these ends get stuck when you slide it in, so I need to sand down those ends and round them. And then I also have to attach the whole thing to the floor. So this one's going to be a lot more work. So let's see if I can get all that done tonight.
I started by cutting a piece of metal that I'll use to tie the pieces of the sliding bench together. I painted it and screwed it to each individual piece. Then I got to sanding the sliding bench. I had to round the corners on the ends and smooth out the edge where the trim will attach. Next, I began attaching the bench to the floor and adding all the trim pieces. Then it was onto the cushions. I was able to use a twin mattress I already had. It worked out that I was able to cut it into 4 sections, and I had exactly the right amount of foam needed for all of the 4 cushions. Alright, so I'm in the middle of another project, but since I'm waiting on some stuff to dry, I figured it would be a good time to close out the bench video. I was waiting on my cushion covers, which just came this week. These I actually ordered on Etsy. They're really, really good actually. I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. The lead time was like 5 to 6 weeks. It said 3 to 4, so I was a little bummed. It took almost a month and a half. But anyways, I got them now, and I actually put them on this side already, and I'm gonna put them on this side so I don't have to use like a child's bed sheet anymore, and I think it's gonna turn out pretty good. So that's that. Basically, I'm going to finish out the bench video for right now. Even though I still have to stain both of them, I'm just not sure what color I want them, so I'm gonna do all that later when I get the walls in and decide what colors I'm going with for all that. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to get this whole van going so I can use it. I did take one trip on it finally, and it was awesome. It really was a lot of fun. I was happy with how everything that I have done has worked out, and I learned a lot of things that I'm going to need to change. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me build these benches. They were a lot of fun. I'm really happy with the way that they turned out, and I'll see you on the next video. Some of the plywood was left over from the floor, so the wood cost came out to $205. Hardware was about $30, the mattress was $95, and the covers cost $203, bringing the total for this project to $533. And this brings the grand total for my van build to $1,393. As always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and follow along with my build.